Welcome to Bold Soul Whimsy, the home of bold art, gluten-free foods, and creative homemaking. Now we're going to cut up the cloves of our garlic into smaller pieces. These do not need to be precious or perfect, just need to be divided up into slightly smaller bits. I like going long ways and then sideways. Alrighty, go ahead and pop your garlic into the bowl and grab those 4 ears of corn. There's probably a fancier, more gourmet way of slicing and dicing corn. I just hold it by one end, slice going down the long ways, and rotate it in my hand. Next is a bell pepper. You can use whatever color you want. I just happen to have green on hand. We're going to cut it into long strips and then cut them up a little bit smaller from that. Again, I like chunky vegetables. If you want to take a little bit longer and cut them into smaller pieces, that's entirely up to you and your kitchen. After our bell pepper is in the bowl, it's time to move on to those 4 tomatoes. Once all the tomatoes are sliced and diced, I like to drain the tomato water directly into the bowl. That way you don't need to put as much filtered water in and you get a little bit more taste and all those yummy seeds. Next, it's time for our bunch of cilantro. I'm just going to hold it together tightly in my hand and slice through the leaves and the upper part of the stalk. I'm going to toss the lower part just because it's a little bit too thick. After the cilantro, I'm going to grab those 2 limes, cut them in half, and then cut them into wedges so they can fit inside my juicer. You don't have to use a tool, you can just squeeze them with your fingers. After the lime juice is in, I'm going to take a moment to do a quick stir of all the vegetables and herbs in there. I know it looks really full. I like to use this particular mixing bowl when I'm trying to fill up 2 24-ounce mason jars because I know that is the exact amount that the bowl takes. Now, because I'm using 2 24-ounce mason jars, I know I'm going to need 2 teaspoons of salt per jar. So I'm going to mix in 4 teaspoons of salt and then mix up the vegetables really well to make sure that the salt is everywhere where I need it to be. I don't want there to be too little salt in a jar because that'll affect the fermentation process. After the salt is all mixed in, I'm going to go ahead and grab my chili powder. I'm going to do about 1 teaspoon-ish. As you can see, it's not exact. A little bit over, a little bit under, it'll still be good. Next, I'm going to do 1 teaspoon-ish of cumin powder. Just a heads up, these are at Aldi for 97 cents a pop. Great deal. I'm going to go ahead and give it a really good mix and get that chili powder, cumin, and salt coated over every bit of the veggies. You're going to notice that your salsa seems a little watery. That's the water leaching out of the tomato and other vegetables. Totally fine. It's now time to start popping it into your 2 mason jars. I like to use a big soup ladle and just fill it up almost to the ridge where you put the lid on. I'm going to take a moment to tamp down, push down with my wooden tamper. This makes room for even more vegetables from your salsa into the jar, but it also releases more of that water. That water is going to mix with the salt that you've already put in to create a nice brine. If you do not have a stamper, you can easily just use your hands. That's why I suggest getting a wide mouth jar so you can get your fingers in there. After all the salsa from the bowl is in the jar, I'm going to go ahead and pour any of the remaining juices and water directly in. I'm going to use my stamper to push it down. I want it underneath where the lid's going to go. That tamper is also going to release more of the liquids, which is great. Now I'm going to add a little bit of filtered water in, just enough to make sure everything is completely covered. Really important that everything's covered. I like to add a little pinch of salt, and then our glass weights are going in. You do not have to use a glass weight. Some people prefer to use rocks in little plastic bags. That works too. Now I'm going to just leave them alone under a dish towel to ferment. Please like this video and subscribe to Bold Soul Whimsy, where you can look forward to at least 2 videos and related blog posts each week on bold art, gluten